All right, what's up? Welcome in Friday episode. It is GC Live. Wes Mitchell here, Chris Clark. As you see, we are back live from the Market Party Express, the place where you can come party in a Cockaboose. We're going to tell you a little bit more about where we are throughout the show and give you an opportunity maybe to get over here, maybe to win some prizes. We're going to point you to an Instagram account for you to do just that a little bit later on. This is our view from the other sideline edition of the show as well. We're going to be joined by our Tennessee expert as we tick away the time towards South Carolina versus number 5 Tennessee, Williams-Brice Stadium. We are right in the shadow of Willie B, getting ready for this game. Chris, we actually haven't had as many shows this week as we usually do, so we haven't really, I would say, had a chance to dive into this game quite like we have or normally do coming into a show on Friday. So initial thoughts on Tennessee has got to be, first of all, they are just really good, man. Like, let's call a spade a spade. Like, they are number 5 for a reason. They're a great football team, and it's going to be a tough challenge for the Gamecocks this weekend.
Yeah, I think tough challenge is a great word. Tall order for South Carolina. There's probably a lot of the cliches, whatever you want, whatever you can come up with to illustrate just how difficult this is going to be. It's a tall hill for South Carolina to climb, and I think when you look at Tennessee, West, everybody is going to start with their offense and just how explosive they are, and that's very fair. This is an offense that the style, right, is very difficult because you think of the passing attack, but also merging that with the ability to run the football, how efficient Hendon Hooker's been, the speed of Jalen Hyatt. They get Cedric Tillman back, another one of their fantastic receivers for this game. But I think what gets lost in that is they've made a good many special teams plays as well, right? So can that be an advantage for South Carolina in this game? Maybe not as much as in some other games because the Vols have been pretty good there. And they're also pretty good on defense. They've given up some points this year at times. Some of their point totals, you look at it and you go, maybe you can score some points. But I think this defense is probably a little bit better than the statistics would indicate. So really, when you look at all phases of the game, you would start with, can you possibly keep pace with a Tennessee offense to score points in bunches? Can you slow them down at all? But even beyond that, Wes, really in all phases of the game, this is a pretty good football team.
Well, I look at it, man. You don't get to be number 5 in the country at this point in the season. Maybe early on, maybe you're kind of a one of these top 5 teams that's more built by the media as opposed by your like on field play. But here we are. We're towards the end of the year, man. Everybody has a couple games left. If you are number 5 in the country, you have earned that spot. And they are sort of led by their offense, but I would dare say, man, you're not going to be a good football team. You're not going to be the number 5 football team without being pretty solid in the other phases of the game as well. So, I think you look at this, they defensively, man, they have given up some yardage. Like, I think statistically, their yards allowed is not like the upper half of the SEC, but their points allowed is actually much improved from last season. And I think, this was a really good offense last year as well. We saw that. So you stack what was already a really good offense, improve that going into this year, and you bring pretty much, Beamer talked about it, a bunch of juniors and seniors. So you bring all those guys back, right? And then put them in the same system for the second year. They were already explosive. They already had playmakers. And so the offense gets a little bit better. Pair that up with a defense that I think is much better and a defense that is forcing turnovers. Like, that's something we talk about. I make fun of you because you talk about turnovers every week, but this is a Tennessee defense that has benefited from turning teams over. When they do that and they give the ball back to this offense, they don't even need a short field, man. But when they give them a short field, when they get turnovers, it just makes them, borderline impossible to beat by sort of mortal teams. Like, I think these elite, if you talk about a Georgia, obviously, Georgia's defense, they were sort of I would say, kind of the breaking point for this Tennessee offense. But normal teams, like everybody else, has struggled to slow these guys down. So it's kind of like, all right, from a Carolina perspective, I look at it, where is your path to winning? And, most games we can create a somewhat realistic path to that. I think Georgia was maybe the other game this year we went into and just said, there's not very many paths to win. This one, you're going to need just so many things to go your way, I think, from a Carolina perspective.
Yeah, you would. And it'd be all the typical. I mean, it does sound a little cliche, but when you're talking about upsets of this magnitude, it really does take a lot. So, yeah, you mentioned turnovers. I mean, obviously, you start there. This isn't a game where you're even in turnover margin and you're expecting to win.
No.
Interestingly, Tennessee's had a couple of those. I think their game with Pitt earlier this year, right, was even in turnover margin. It was a super weird statistical game, that one with Pitt, that Tennessee ended up winning in overtime. I think first downs, time of possession, turnovers, like yardage, all of it almost mirrored each other, which was very strange. You don't really feel like what you've seen from this South Carolina team that they could match that type of effort there, right? This is a defense that, they've really struggled lately. We saw some alarming things even against Vanderbilt. They struggled against a poor Missouri offense. They definitely struggled against Florida. And then really in 2 of the last 3 games, Wes, I would say they've had their 2 worst offensive performances of the year. When you think about Missouri, we think about Florida. So certainly a lot has to go right. You start with turnovers. You start with making a big play on special teams. You have to bank on South Carolina playing their best game offensively and defensively all in the same game. So it is tough. It's a narrow path, like you said.
Yeah, and somebody's saying that, Greg's saying in the comments, you never know. That's why you play the game. Yeah, of course. Sure. I mean, you play it out. You do. I think we get on the show here, we talk about percentages and chances and stuff like that. Yet nobody's going to sit here and say South Carolina has no chance to win any game they ever play. It's just it's kind of like beating Georgia in Athens a few years ago, when Muschamp was here. I mean, going to that game, you don't really give South Carolina much of a chance to win, but things went their way. They found a way to win the game. And, hey, you'll take that all day if you're a Carolina fan. But I think, man, you look at this team, you look at Tennessee, and I'm always a matchups guy. I think you tell me South Carolina struggled against Missouri's defense, talking about Carolina's offense. I mean, I buy that. Like, I think that's almost to be expected. You kind of, from a Carolina perspective, you were hoping they could muster enough offense and that Missouri wouldn't do much on offense themselves. Then you go up and down the field for the most part on Vanderbilt. Really had an opportunity to score even more points than they did in that game. I think the concerning thing is really you just look at what happened at Florida. The fact there is, once again, no Marshawn Lloyd. Marshawn Lloyd being a difference maker within the offense. That's where it gets tough. Like, I think if one was in there, you maybe point to some positives. I personally, knowing what Florida had on defense, thought that they would be able to go into that game and replicate some of the things we saw against Vanderbilt. However, we saw that absolutely did not happen. So I think we've seen a lot of not good offense this year. So Tennessee's defense, I go into this game questioning, asking, y'all tell me in the chat as well, can the Carolina offense move the ball against this defense? Like, I think we've seen a lot of evidence that says it's going to be a struggle again. We have seen glimmers of, like, I think right now all anybody wants to talk about is what they saw last week against Florida, and rightfully so. Like, it was a terrible performance offensively, but I think the key to them even having any chance to staying in this game is that you're going to have to be able to move the football on offense, keep your defense on the sideline. Not like this whole thing of complementary football. Last week was the exact opposite of complementary football. Last year against Tennessee, the exact opposite of complementary football. There has to be a little bit of, you're helping me, I'm helping you, as far as Carolina's offense and defense against a team like this.
Yeah, I mean, you can't do any of what we saw last week. I mean, you're right. That was the antithesis of complementary football because, a lot has been made of 3 straight turnovers, to open the second half. Obviously, you can't do that. But the concerning thing, Wes, isn't even the turnovers, right? Sometimes those can be fluky. They haven't been fluky for South Carolina because it has been a theme this year. But what is even more concerning is what you saw right throughout the rest of the game, which was they couldn't run the ball, they couldn't protect the passer, they couldn't do much of anything. And we saw that against Missouri as well. We did see some things against Vandy, but that has been, I would say, a little bit more of the exception, than the rule this season. So you look at Tennessee statistically, maybe even eye test, you say there might be some room to do some things there, but South Carolina is still going to have to go out and prove it, and they're going to have to do it, without Marshawn Lloyd. So again, and Christian Beal-Smith.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's that clearly for a stretch there was what they kind of built their offense around. Was Marshawn Lloyd, and his playmaking ability. He gets their running game going, and that sort of feeds everything else. It puts them out of necessarily second longs, third and long situations that they were in far too often last week. I mean, you look third and fourth. I think the first 3 third downs were like 3rd and 14, 3rd and 11, and 3rd and 9 right off the bat. Florida on their side was the exact opposite. You're talking about 3rd and shorts, and then the ability they actually protected their passer and converted some 3rd and longs as well. So I think it's one of those things where it's just like we're not going to sit here and sugarcoat it. Like it's going to take a mammoth effort. Frank says we suck. Fire Satterfield. I mean, that doesn't make for good podcasting or radio. Like we're going to try to talk about the game. We know that obviously there's not going to be an offensive coordinator change between today and tomorrow. So it does no good to even talk about it. They will evaluate that at the end of the season. I think we all know what direction that's heading. So nobody here is blind. Everybody's seen the offense. You've seen enough to know what's up. Like it's been a struggle. Today we're talking about South Carolina and Tennessee, trying to get ready for this game. What has been the difference for you, Chris, with Hendon Hooker at Tennessee versus him at Virginia Tech? Beamer, as a VT grad, was talking earlier this week about like how did we being VT, how we let this guy get away? Well, let me just say, the guy we've watched for the last almost 2 seasons in Knoxville, suiting up in orange, did not look like the same guy we watched at Virginia Tech. And I don't think I'm rewriting history. Wasn't Joe Milton the starter at the beginning of last season for Tennessee?
Yeah.
So, and they went through preseason camp with Milton as the starter, right?
Yeah.
Hooker comes in. I mean, dude has set the world on fire. Like
Sure.
all the respect in the world for what he has done. But man, what have you seen from him?
It's funny. I was listening to a podcast that Justin Fuente, former Virginia Tech coach who got let go there, he did with Doug Gottlieb. It's like a 3-parter. I think it's like 5 or 6 hours long or something total. So I listened to the last part, and Fuente did talk about Hooker a little bit, and he said that, he gave all the good adjectives. He was like, once we went to him, things turned around. He said he was super smart, talented. He even said he was handsome. He was just like, he's got all the
he's got it all, basically.
He's got all the things you want. And so, he did enter the portal, goes to Tennessee. That was what, Jeremy Pruitt left a lot of bad gifts for Tennessee. Some of the things he did, he left them some good players. Hendon Hooker was one of them, not recruited by this staff. Jeremy Pruitt brought him in before he got fired. And yeah, they went to him late, but man, I just think he's really talented. He does have all those things. I think they've all been there, but what they've been able to do is just really harness his talents, right? So not only Josh Heupel, but Alex Golesh, their OC, he came from Iowa State and brought some of their smash mouth run concepts. So they merged those systems together. They've obviously got really good receivers, backs. Hooker's a dual threat guy, super smart and efficient. 2 picks all year. That's it. And so that's the biggest thing is they're able to keep pressure off of him in most games, except for probably Georgia's the exception to that, Wes. But he's just got all the tools in addition to that. He's got the tools, the brain, protection, and a lot of players around him and a really quarterback-friendly offense.
Yeah, QB-friendly offense. That's a key in college football these days. But By the way, he should be joined shortly by VolQuest Austin Price. Chris, will you let him know that I did send the invite to him on there? I should have gone through. We're going to be joined soon by Austin, who's going to give us that kind of Tennessee view of this game like we do every week, get somebody in who has a much better feel for the opponent than we do to give you all some insight. So we've had Austin on the show in the past. He's been fantastic. He's going to tell us about what has happened with this Tennessee program and how they have just been on the up, man. Like they have really taken steps forward going into not just last year, but certainly made a big leap going into this year. And I think the thing about this offense too, when first of all, you're going to see it on Saturday, they will spread the field as far as their offensive sets. It's very much the Briles Baylor approach where your wide receivers are almost sideline to sideline. Like they spread it as far as your pre-snap formations. They spread it farther than anybody in the country, which creates more space for you to cover as a defense. And I think the other thing, you're going to watch tomorrow and you're going to be sitting there in the stands. You're like, this is so simple. Like, how do they get away with this? This is so simple. Well, some of it just looks simple. Like a lot of what they're doing, like you might be like, that's a slant route. Like what is so hard to cover by a slant route? A lot of what they do has built-in adjustments to either pre-snap or on the fly where that quarterback and the receiver are both reading what he should adjust the route to. And that's not that uncommon. Most offenses these days have plays. I would dare say all offenses have option routes in them, but a huge part of what they do is going to be option routes and giving their receivers and their quarterback the chance to sort of change the play or change the route really to be more accurate on the fly. So, I think that's something to pay attention to tomorrow. It's going to look simple, but there's a lot going on. And these guys, to give them credit, man, like they know this scheme very, very well. It's been taught well. It's simplified enough for the quarterbacks, the receivers to do those adjustments on the fly and still play fast. But then, Chris, the other thing, they're going to throw the little quick game perimeter stuff that's given South Carolina fits the last few weeks. It gave them fits in Knoxville last year.
Yep.
And they're going to throw that stuff. But then they're going to come back to the running game. They're going to have power running concepts. It's not just zone read. It's not just finesse running. They're going to bring power run concepts to this as well. So once they get you all spread out, they're going to come back downhill. And it's always seems to be the case, man, for these high-flying passing offenses. Ultimately, though, they want to run the football, and they run the football very efficiently.
Yeah, Hendon Hooker had 112 yards rushing in a single game, earlier this year. So he can run the football, always a threat to keep. You're right. I mean, I think back to the game last year, Wes, might be more of the same. A lot of people are thinking about Jalen Hyatt, his 15 touchdowns, running down the field wide open, and certainly they're going to stretch you vertically, but how they stretch you horizontally, just throwing the ball out there. South Carolina struggled to get off blocks and tackle them in space last year. It was a lot of easy 8, 9, 12 yards here and there. We've seen that some in games for South Carolina this year. Think about the Missouri game. You think about the Florida game. When you play this team, it's that on steroids, basically. And then they're going to, try to outnumber you and get more people, get you out of the box, so to speak, and then run the football right down your throat. So really difficult to cover, really difficult for the defensive line and linebackers.
No doubt. All right, we're going to go out now to our special guest. It is Austin Price from VolQuest.com. Austin has been I guess you can say a mainstay on the show. He was here the last couple of seasons maybe. Austin, I appreciate you taking the time, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great, guys. How are you?
We're good. Trying to get the people here ready for this matchup, Austin, and nobody better to tell them a little bit more about Tennessee and provide some insight than you. So I guess big picture, what's the biggest difference between this Tennessee team this year compared to last year, Austin? What has been the biggest thing that has maybe helped them just kind of make this leap forward to being the number 5 team in the country this year?
I think they're a little more succinct, a little more crisp on offense. I think year 2 in the system has allowed them to Just kind of find their groove a little bit, and Hendon Hooker is playing at a different level, and he's pretty much calling things at the line of scrimmage. As the quarterback, not relying so much on Josh Heupel and Alex Golish and Joey Halsley as he did a year ago, and I think the experience having older guys due to that COVID year really, Tennessee's I think benefited greatly from that. When you look at Hendon Hooker's 24, Preston Fant's 23, you can go right down the list. There are some older guys on both sides of the ball that, I think, just from a maturity level, handle themselves a certain way. And, maybe you wouldn't have 2 or 3 years ago, but they do now as older players.
Austin, a lot of talk about Tennessee's offense, rightfully so. And I'm sure we'll talk more about it during your segment here, but defensively, that's where I want to go with my first question. This Tennessee defense statistically maybe not be at the top, maybe they're not at the top of the conference in a lot of categories, but to me, when you look at what they've done, there've been some impressive performances. I've talked to some other people in the industry that have been pretty impressed with their defense. Tell us about the style and then how good this defense has been this season for the Vols.
Well, I think they've been opportunistic. I think they've done a really nice job of growing throughout the season. They've been much better up front than anybody thought they would be. They came in with a lot of inexperienced players up front, and I think Rodney Garner has really kind of pulled the most that he can out of that defensive line. They're deeper at linebacker than they were a year ago, and after struggling early in the year with their corners, they've kind of, stumbled into 2 guys that, they're not perfect, but they play the ball better than probably anybody else in the secondary, and that's Brandon Turnage and Danico Slaughter. Slaughter got his first start back in 2020 in the COVID season, and that season opener at South Carolina. The last time Tennessee made the trip to Columbia, which, covering this program feels like 12 lifetimes ago.
You still got you, Austin? We may have lost Austin.
We did lose Austin.
He's not. Oh,
yep.
Well,
it's official.
Austin was done with us, I guess. We'll try to get him back in there. Chris is going to text him right now. See if we need to resend that link, Chris. I don't know, just disconnected. He wasn't muted or anything, but I think interesting there that Hooker is sort of. I think he said he's like calling the plays at the line of scrimmage like that. Yeah. That's a lot of trust for a guy, and kind of tells you where they are in that trust level with their quarterback, that they are letting him pretty much call the offense. Let's go right back out. Austin, we got you now, man.
Can you hear me now?
We got you loud and clear, man. So I'll sort of steer you here, if that's cool, Austin, back to the offense. I know you were talking about Hendon Hooker a second ago, and just so he is quite literally, you said, getting to call the plays at the line of scrimmage. Is that right? I think we lost you again, Austin. I thought I could hear him.
I heard something.
Not normally have this happen. Austin, we got you, man. All right, I guess we're moving on. We might try one more time. If not, appreciate Austin hopping on there for a moment. We're getting close to closing this thing out. But, Jamie said, isn't live shows fun? Yeah, it's always something. It's always something, but that's okay. That's why we enjoy this. Justin says he's got that rural Louisiana internet just like me. But, Chris, so as we sort of start to close this thing out, man, and we actually have some prizes you could maybe win that we're going to go to here in a moment. What's your takeaway? I know we got a brief moment there from Austin. Yep. Anything catch your attention?
Yeah, I go to the defense, right? Because I think there's so much with this offense. It is so difficult to slow them down. Really only Right, one team has done it. You want to try to bring Austin back on one more time?
Yeah, we're gonna try this one more time. Austin, since we may lose you, give us some sort of final summary thoughts on the game, and how many things would have to go wrong for Tennessee for these Gamecock fans to see an upset on Saturday night?
I think we're good now.
Okay.
When in doubt, turn it off and turn it back on. So that's what I did.
There you go.
So for Tennessee to lose the game Saturday night, I think South Carolina has got to make some plays in special teams, which, I mean, they've done all year. And Tennessee's, been really good in coverage units. But, getting the punt off has been not been real timely. They've had one blocked, been close a couple other times. So, I think early in the game, Tennessee's got to avoid, special team snafus. They can't allow South Carolina to get a big momentum play because the crowd's going to be really loud, right? It's one of the more underrated places in the conference, I think, that doesn't get talked about a whole lot. They'll be loud early. Tennessee's got to take them out of the game, and they've got to do that by getting off to a hot start, not giving South Carolina a special teams a play that kind of gets the crowd into it. South Carolina struggled to score the ball. And once Tennessee got past Georgia, I thought that all three opponents, were solid, but where they really struggled was what Tennessee does well. And can you score enough to beat Tennessee? And I'm not sure Missouri, South Carolina, or Vanderbilt could do that. But if they're able to do that, I think it boils down to getting off to a quick start, Tennessee playing a little flat, and honestly, Tennessee turning the football over. I mean, I think that's something they've really avoided most of the year, guys. And I think that's a big reason why Tennessee sits here at 9-1 is they've not turned the football over. They've played really relatively mistake-free. And Hendon's got the 2 interceptions on the year, one against Alabama and one against Georgia. That's it. And, they've even when they fumbled it, and Jalen Wright's fumbled it a few times, they've recovered most of it themselves. So, can they avoid that tomorrow night?
Yeah, Austin, if you can, man, give us a quick big picture, I guess, approach on this Tennessee team moving forward. You're not number 5 at this point in the year without really earning it. So I guess what's your take on if this team truly does, have what it takes to maybe go win a title? And if anything, what's kind of the other side of that? What is the weakness? Not necessarily in the terms of like South Carolina. I don't know if they have the group to exploit it, but just more so if there's a thing that's going to keep them from maybe making a run in the college football playoff, if they can get in, what is that thing that maybe concerns you the most?
Well, I think for Tennessee, they can absolutely go and win the thing if they get in, just based off of style of play. What they do is so different than a lot of schools. And just because, some people try to go fast, but Tennessee just plays at such a ridiculous pace. I mean, guys, you got to be in the press box, and I'm sure you'll get to see that tomorrow night. They'll be like 3 plays behind on TV versus what you're watching in real time. I mean, it's.
Nope.
He is Austin Price. I believe we're having some more issues there, Austin. You got to cut it off and turn it on again. But go check out Austin at VolQuest.com. I think we got a few questions in there before it went off there again. We appreciate Austin. Go read up on Tennessee, man. They do a fantastic job over there. And if you want sort of that more in-depth look at South Carolina's opponent, you can go see that at VolQuest. Again, like I said, we are at the Market Party Express, right in the shadow of Williams-Brice Stadium. And we got some gifts to give away potentially. Chris, you want to let Luke move in here? Luke, ready to make your GC Live debut? What's up, Luke? How you doing, man? Welcome in. This is Luke. I didn't even get your last name, Luke. So go ahead, tell
Luke Lorick, Tailgating Challenge.
Luke, tell him a little bit about what you do, man.
Yeah, so again, first off, I'm a Gamecock alumni, 04 Moore School of Business for it. And so I found the National Tailgating Day and Tailgating Challenge and just do so much in the tailgating space that was really born right here where I'm sitting right now in a Cockaboose. Like, that's where I got my love and passion for tailgating and just trying to continue to spread the word and know that, tailgating starts here in Columbia, South Carolina.
Luke, how many different campuses have you tailgated on?
Not enough.
Do you know what the number is?
I don't have an exact number in there because again,
is it a lot or
it's probably not as many as some because like when I was here, I was here for every single game. I live in Colorado now, so tailgating is different in Colorado.
Yeah, not quite the same. Yeah. So again, like I teased earlier, we got some stuff to give away. You're gonna have to go to Instagram to enter, I believe. If you go to @Market Party Express on Instagram. Luke, what do we have for one lucky member?
All right, so first off, you get a couple of passes, right, to come here. Like a Cockaboose, it's like they're going to set up. You're going to get food. You're going to get drink. You're going to have an ultimate tailgating experience. It's iconic to the Columbia area. So 2 passes for that. We got our Sporticulture. This is like the old school. This is like the Gamecock, like lava lamp that has a built-in Bluetooth speaker, so you can play Sandstorm while you're jamming out with that.
Or you can listen to the podcast.
Sorry, that's probably what you do first, and then listen to Sandstorm afterwards, right? And then finally, you got the LED, the car door thing. So you open the door up, and then you got the Gamecock logo.
Okay, all right. I've not seen one of these.
You're gonna steal that, aren't you?
Yeah, but no, yeah. So we're gonna give all these away. Luke, what's your you got an Instagram for Tailgating Challenge as well, right?
Check it out. Just appreciate any support from Gamecock Nation out there as always.
Are you going to be here tomorrow tailgating?
We're going to be here tomorrow. We hopefully with SEC Network coming down to the Cockaboose as well too. We'll see if we can get the crew over there and just have another awesome day in Columbia.
All right, I've been telling people all year long about the Market Party Express, so they're tired of hearing from me. Luke, why don't you tell them the best place or best thing about hanging out here for the game? Not just this week, but also I've heard there are people that have been renting it out for maybe a graduation party. I know Josh has told us about different sort of wine-based events they've had here as well. What do you think of the Cockaboose, man?
Oh, yeah, I love the Cockaboose, right? So anytime you think like from a national tailgating scene, you're thinking of the Cockaboose when you think of Columbia, South Carolina. And now you can actually, because like when I was just out of school in this I couldn't afford one. I didn't know anyone that had one. So now having the ability where you can buy tickets to come to a game, like to me, that's awesome. And that's an experience that a lot of fans may not be able to have until now with these guys. So,
yeah, Wade says, by the way, he's been following Tailgating Challenge for years now. I'm getting notifications like crazy. But shout out to Wade. Wade is one of our loyal listeners, by the way. He's always in our chat room. All right, Josh, what do they got to do in order to win? Do they just need to comment on the Instagram?
In order to enter, you just need to follow Market Party Express on Instagram. And then you need to also follow Tailgating Challenge and then also follow Gamecock Central. And then that should enter you in. And if you want to
comment
and tag your tailgating buddy, that would be good as well. And then we'll award something later tonight.
Yeah, whatever buddy you're doing like keg stands with before a game, that's who you got to tag to the post that is on the Market Party Express.
About to
Instagram.
post it right now.
It's going up right now within 1 minute, I think. Luke, any closing thoughts, man?
Everything has been lining up so well in life here recently. I'm just feeling it. I'm feeling the Gamecock win tomorrow. I hope I am right. I'm nervous about the game, but I came back from Colorado for this game, and it's an honor just to get to be on Gamecock Central. Like I've seen and followed you guys for years and years and years, and to be able to sit here on the couch with you, it's pretty awesome. So I'm honored to be here today and just appreciate everyone out there in Gamecock Nation for supporting this guy, and all these guys around us.
Yeah, we appreciate that, and appreciate you, Luke. Y'all go check out Tailgating Challenge. Luke calling the upset. So
calling the upset, why not?
That's
Shoot your shot, baby.
That's a heart pick, I think. But I know there's a lot of people on here who would be very, very excited for Luke to be correct. So, all right, hey, y'all come check it out. Like he said, you don't have to pay. I don't know what a Cockaboose goes for, but you don't have to own a Cockaboose anymore to experience one. So come do that at the Market Party Express. You can also go to marketonmain.com, hit the Party Express link at the top. It's third from the left, and you can get all the information about coming for a game, coming for a future game, or doing, like I said, you can do we're trying to get Kendall Smith to do her graduation party here. So check it out. It's awesome. Promise you can experience one of the best, I would say probably top 5 tradition at the University of South Carolina, period, is Cockaboose Railroad. You can come get it. Check it out. For Chris Clark, for Luke, for Josh, for Market Party Express, for Market on Main, I'm Wes Mitchell. We'll see y'all at the game on Saturday. Y'all have a good one. We'll talk to you soon.